Welcome everyone to QuickBooks Online Update Q2 2022. The slides are available in Google Slides. Actually, let me copy and paste that into the chat as well so you can see it, because I know some people freak out when they can't see a copy of the slides themselves. So you can download the slides yourself if you want to follow along. Today is June 23rd, 2022, and this is the advanced webinar series with Hector Garcia. We have about 140 people attending live in the webinar. When I used to do webinars monthly or twice a month, we used to get all the way to 400, 500 people attend at once. There's so many webinars out there. There's so many different things going on that attrition happens. People go into other webinar platforms and that sort of thing. But we hope that you guys, the core group that attend live and the people that watch the YouTube recording later on can attend this quarterly cadence. This is where I'm going to be. I'm going to be in this quarterly update cadence. Unfortunately, QuickBooks Intuit doesn't release enough features in a monthly basis to warrant a whole webinar. Now, Intuit does have a webinar called In the Know, which I believe sometimes it's at the same time as my webinars. And I don't mean to compete with them. I have my own cadence, which is once a quarter. And they do monthly webinars, but for the most part, they're releasing products which are additional sales to customers, like banking add-ons and payment add-ons and things like that. I don't focus too much on the selling new products part. I focus more on the product improvement piece. It's kind of my thing. I'm tracking the product improvements for QuickBooks Online, and I hope this quarterly webinar series helps you out. Okay, so let's jump right to it. We're gonna break the webinar into 3 parts, and it might be between an hour to an hour and a half total, so give you a general idea how long you're gonna be here for. First part is gonna be QuickBooks Online. So across all versions of QuickBooks Online, what things have changed? What are we seeing that's different? What affects every user of QuickBooks Online, whether it's Simple Start, Plus, Advanced, Accountant Edition. So we'll talk about that. Second piece, we'll talk about QuickBooks Online Accountant. So what affects accountants or accounting users? And the last one, we'll talk about QuickBooks Online Advanced only, to talk about some of the improvements that are happening in that world. So let's start with QuickBooks Online all versions. We're going to start talking about the price changes in QuickBooks Online. So Intuit announced a couple of months ago that there's going to be a price change to QuickBooks Online across the board. It's essentially $5 added to the Simple Start, Essential, and Plus SKUs, and $20 added to the Advanced SKU. Now, why did they do this where they added a lot more to the Advanced SKU? I think that the customers are already paying $180 a month can pay $200, can pay $250, could probably pay $300 at this point. So because they're targeting that larger echelon of the small business, or what they're calling mid-market, which is technically not mid-market, but the larger group of the small businesses with QuickBooks Online Advanced, I suspect that this price will actually continue to go up. I don't see this staying stagnant because most of the development dollars, the new features, are going into QuickBooks Online Advanced. And I've seen the proposed roadmap in this NDA session, so I couldn't talk to you about it. But within the next year or two, QuickBooks Online Advanced will start looking a lot like QuickBooks Desktop on the inventory side and the project management side. So they're 100% focused on developing that feature set. I don't think they will ever have product parity of QuickBooks Online Advanced versus Enterprise, for example, but that's where they're moving to. It's adding some of those missing features. And QBO Advanced, I believe, will probably continue to go up in price even at a higher rate, because a lot of my QuickBooks Enterprise customers already paid $300 to $500 a month anyway for their subscription. So there's plenty of room there. Anyway, so for the vast majority of users, 95% of users that are on Simple Start, Essentials, and Plus, what they're going to see is a $5 increase to their monthly subscriptions. On July 18th, officially, all new customers will see the new pricing in the website. So today, June 23rd, it's going to be the old pricing, 25, 50, and 80. But starting July 18th, any new accounts are going to be showing up in there. Now, any existing Simple Start and Essentials customers that signed up even prior to July 18th will see automatically in their July bill, they're going to see the new price. They've already been warned, they've already been notified. So this upcoming bill in July, this upcoming charge in July, anyone that pays for the monthly fee starting in July, the Simple Starter Essentials will start paying the new higher price, and existing Plus and Advanced customers will kick in August. They stagger them like that, I assume, to sort of reduce the amount of customer support calls they're going to get, because no matter what, customers can be emailed and warned or whatever about price increases. People see something they're not expecting in their bill, they're going to call. So I assume they staggered it like that so they can sort of split the load of customer service calls. And accounts that are currently under the old 50% wholesale program and in the current 30% Pro Advisor discount program, these are accountants that pay for QuickBooks in behalf of their customers. Those are going to kick in September 1st. So in the slides, there's the article that explains all those changes. Nobody likes a price increase. As a matter of fact, I'm reading a book, I thought I had it here, called Selling the Price Increase, and I'm starting to study the whole concept of being able to communicate a price increase to a customer without anxiety and frustration. And I don't know what's going to happen to the 5-for-5 program. There used to be a 5-for-5 program where you can get 5 accounts for $5 each. I believe it was a Plus account, but those I think they're all set to expire 5 years from the beginning. I don't think those are going to go to lifetime, but I really don't know if these changes are affecting those immediately at the moment. Anyway, that's the price changes to QBO monthly subscription. For payroll, what's changing is the core, premium, and what's it called? Elite. The core, premium, elite monthly base fees are going to stay the same, but using the same dates that we use for the QBO price increases. The per employee cost is going up for core from $4 a month to $5 a month. I believe 60 to 70% of payroll accounts are in core. So Intuit decided only to raise the price on the core customers and leave the premium and elite customers with the same per month fee. The big change here is for contractor direct deposits. So starting, I believe it was July 1st or August 1st, one of the two, QuickBooks is going to sell for contractors. It's going to sell an entirely separate cost, an entirely separate product per se, which is going to be $4 per contractor per month. So $4 per contractor per month. That's what it is now. $4 per contractor per month. That includes direct deposit in the contractors as many times as possible and the 1099 fee. The new fee is going to be $15 a month for up to 20 contractors, and then $20 for each additional contractor. So if you have not employees, you have contractors, and you want to pay them through direct deposit and generate a 1099 for them, that's going to be the new cost, $15 a month for the first 20 contractors, plus $2 per additional contractor. So those are the changes on the payroll side, and they all kick in with the same schedule as the previously ones thought. At the same time that Intuit announced the QBO QuickBooks Online price change, they also announced a lot of changes upcoming for the QuickBooks Desktop world. In this webinar, I'm focused on the QBO side, but since I have over 160 of my colleagues watching live, might as well give you a couple of notable mentions. Number one, currently QuickBooks Desktop Accountant 2022 is the last version of QuickBooks Desktop that you can still purchase as a one-time option. It looks like they were not going to do this for 2023. So when 2023 comes out, which is probably going to be somewhere mid-September, like usually is, okay? So when that comes out, the 2023 will be subscription only. So there will no longer, probably at some point in September, there will no longer be any sort of QuickBooks Desktop version that you can buy as a quote one-time purchase. So the entire transition to subscription it seems like it will be completed 100% for desktop this year. A lot of people don't even know you can still purchase QuickBooks Desktop Accountant Edition as a one-time fee. QuickBooks Desktop Enhanced Payroll for Accountants is no longer available starting June 1st for new accounts. So if you have QuickBooks Desktop Enhanced Payroll for Accountants now, if you have it now, or had it before June 1st, it'll continue to work. They will probably increase the price coming September. It wouldn't strike me strange that they'll increase the price to that, and significantly as well, because Intuit is not a big fan of supporting desktop payroll because it's a big thing to support. Obviously, what they want to do is they want to support QBO payroll. I will reserve my comments about how crappy QBO payroll is and how great QuickBooks Desktop QuickBooks Desktop payroll is. I'll reserve my comments about that. I'll just use the adjectives to let you know how I feel about that. But it is what it is. It's what's happening. QuickBooks Desktop Pro Plus will be pulled from retail and web sales, which means you no longer will see QuickBooks Desktop Pro Plus in Costco, in Office Depot, whatever, and you're not going to see it in the website, into a website, as something you can buy straight from the website. So it will only be available for renewal. So existing QuickBooks Desktop Pro customers, QuickBooks Desktop Pro Plus customers will be able to renew their annual subscription coming September or whenever it comes due after 2023 comes out, but they will not be proactively trying to sell. So existing customers only, but they will still, it sounds like they've told me that you'll still be able to sell it as a reseller, and web sales, internal sales will be able to sell it. So if a customer is like deeply looking into a new QuickBooks Desktop Pro Plus subscription, they might be able to buy it, but they're going to eliminate probably 95% of the sales by removing the visibility from the general public. So this is scheduled to be at some point in September when 2023 comes out. So essentially all new QuickBooks Desktop subscription sales will be Premier Plus only. Okay. They also have expected price increases coming to QuickBooks Desktop 2023 and QuickBooks Desktop Payroll, expected somewhere in the middle of in September 2022. We don't know what that increase looks like yet, but they're already warning us 6 months in advance that, hey, warning, QuickBooks Desktop will continue to go up in price. What's interesting is a lot of customers keep choosing desktop over online. So Intuit is saying, okay, so if you want to continue to pay for it, you're going to have to pay a premium. All right, so let's move on to auto create payee in bank feeds. This was one of my favorite things that I've seen in QuickBooks Online added in a very, very long time, which is when you have your banking connected and you do not have the payee in your database, you do not have to, and I'm going to qualify this by saying this works like 50% of the time. And I don't ask me why or how or what pattern or what rhyme or reason or how the AI figures out when this is going to work or not. But I'll show you, and it's easier to show at this point. So I will maximize my screen. Can you tell me through the chat box if you can see my QuickBooks Online? Sorry, I'm by myself in these webinars, and sometimes I don't want to keep going. Okay, so you can see my QuickBooks Online. So what's really neat about this feature is, for example, ABC Wine, ABC Wine, that's the name of the vendor, or ABC Fine Wine, is not in my payee list. So if I type here ABC, maybe I see a customer called ABC Customer, but I don't see ABC Fine Wine. So the context here is, before I would have to go in there and create the payee, come here and create the payee, click on add, or skip the payee. A lot of people just skip the payees. I don't agree with that. I don't think you should ever skip a payee. As a matter of fact, if I could reach my hand through the screen and watch you skip the payee, I would slap you across the face, because I do not agree with skipping the payee. It makes it very difficult to create custom reports in the future. But anyway, you need to create a payee. You should create a payee. It is best practice to always create a payee. But because you have to create a payee, it takes a long time, because you have to sit there, create a payee, click add, select vendor. So what they did is they added this little shortcut that says add, and it's a hyperlink. So it's a hyperlink. So I literally click on that. And the minute I click on that, the new window pops up and it types what QuickBooks thinks the pay should be. Now, this should be ABC Fine Wine. It shouldn't be, quote, wine and spirits. So nice try, QuickBooks. Nice try, but no cigar. But this is amazing. Whether it's kind of working or somehow working, I think the existence of this, it's amazing. It really is. I've been asking for this for a very long time. As you notice that some of these just don't work. Like, for example, this one called Statue of Liberty Austin. I don't even know what type of vendor that is, but Statue of Liberty Austin, this one, it just selects some, I guess this one was already in the database, but let's pick something that is in the database, like this one right here, Arepas Magnet Plus. So when I click on that, this is suggesting US West. So also, again, I don't even know why I didn't even stage this. US West. So I think Bravo into a great job for the initiative of bringing the tool inside of banking to speed up the process of creating new payees. The challenge is, it's three challenges. One, some just don't work. Like in this case, it doesn't work. I can't see a pattern. I can't see a rhyme or reason. I don't understand why it worked for, in this case, Arepa Magnet Plus. It worked for this. It's wrong. So it's the suggestion is wrong, but it worked. It prompted the little link. But for this one, it doesn't work at all. So again, I think again, this might be a public beta. You're experiencing an experiment in a new feature. But one of the things that makes me a little bit irate is that they'll release that. They won't release any specs as to how this works. Again, it leaves me guessing, figuring out, when is it going to work, when it's not going to work. But let's assume that in 2 or 3 months, we go through all these iterations and it finally works and it's 95% accurate in creating new vendors. That's going to be wonderful. It's going to be not a game changer, but I would say pretty close, because this will definitely increase my efficiency. Personally, I think that importing your vendor list from Excel, and I have a specific technique, I have a video on YouTube that explains that. I think that is going to be much faster than anything that Intuit proposes inside the UI. But not everybody likes to export a vendor list, clean it up in Excel, and bring it back in. So I love this new feature. I love this new how to create new features. I love it. In this particular screenshot, it worked for Walmart, but like I deal with a lot of vendors in Miami that have like weird vendor names, and QuickBooks does these weird translations to things, and I really don't know how it figures things out. For the most part, I think that it should just take the first 2 words from the bank feeds or something like that. But again, I'm not part of the development team. I don't know how they come up with these things, but in my opinion, it's a great feature. When it's working, I guarantee it's going to save you so much time. It's going to be great. The other feature that, and this was a little bit old, it probably was released about 5 months ago, but it's been so scattered in terms of who's getting this feature. And at this point, I believe it works for everybody across the board. So for many people, this will be brand new, something they started seeing, or something that's really cool. And for some context, in QuickBooks Online, transfers are traditionally the messiest thing to reconcile. They're the most error-prone thing to do, because a lot of users will classify that transfer in one side of the transaction, let's say in the bank account, and they'll classify it on the other bank account or in the credit card as something else. So you take what looks like 2 different transfers from 2 different accounts, and they should have been a single transaction that match. So one of the things that banking is doing proactively is saying, look, it looks like I see another transaction on the same date for the same amount. This is a debit, this is a credit, and it's searching within other bank accounts and other credit cards, and it's spotting potential transfer matches. And you can skip the what's called a paired transfer. You can skip it and go in there and manually do whatever you want with it. You can make it a check, you can make it a deposit, you can make it its own transaction. You don't have to make it a transfer if you don't want to, but it's starting to detect this, and they're sort of testing to see how much better it's getting at avoiding errors. So that's something I really, really like for the most part. It's about 95% accurate for me. I strongly recommend it. I do the full demo of this in my banking course. So if you ever take my banking course, or if you're going to take my new banking course coming up towards the end of the year, you're probably going to want to see that particular piece, how the transfer work. But if you've used this yourself already, you're probably starting to see this little warning, this pop-up talking about the transfer, and I really, really like it. The other thing is sales tax got a facelift. What do I mean by that? So couple things. So number one, they changed the overall look and feel of sales tax. I cannot confirm with you if anything in the engine on the back end on how things calculate have been fixed or changed or whatever you want to call it. But they did change the interface, and the interface looks really, really slick. And I'm going to show you that in a little bit. The other thing that they added this concept called economic nexus. The economic nexus, what it does is it basically looks at all your sales across all your states, and states are based on shipping date on the transactions, which makes things a little bit complicated, because if you're not proactively putting shipping dates in your transactions, it's not going to read it. It needs to come from the shipping dates. So you're gonna have to from now on you're gonna have to get used to entering the bill dates and copying the shipping date in there. So it's in. I'm not about shipping dates. Shipping address, not shipping dates. Apologize for that. Shipping address. So it comes from the shipping address. So it's gonna take a look at all the sales across all your states, and it has an internal memory or internal database of what is the nexus threshold per state that might require you to have to collect sales tax or report, in this case, for the most part, sales tax, but record sales tax or report income tax in that state. So that's like really, really cool, really interesting in it. So this was just added. I literally saw it for the first time like 3 days ago. Now, I don't know if some people have seen it in their file before, but I just started seeing it in my sample file there. And the other thing is and this is a little bit older. This was probably the first facelift they did a couple months ago. They made this really clean, slick tax return form, which is not the actual tax return. It's basically a guide to filing the tax return. But what's really, really cool is every single state's tax return has a link to the state's website where you would essentially find the paper form or the e-file version of the form. So QuickBooks will not yet, or I don't know if they ever will, actually file a sales tax return, but the information is becoming more and more easy to read. So let me go into sales tax and kind of show you that. So you should be able to see my screen here. And look, when this economic nexus thing happened, I had a tons of questions. So what if the shipping address is missing? Will it default to billing address? Okay, maybe. I don't know if mechanically it's doing that. I read somewhere that if it's missing an address, it will use the ship from address, your business address, as the address to calculate that, which could potentially be wrong as well. Whether you can choose whether to only count for sales or products and not services, that sort of thing. That's really not. There's no answers to that. I think it's just looking at raw sales and whether or not it's reporting as sales for that state. Again, it's a good start. I think the next step here, I'm gonna click on economic nexus and show you. The next step here would be a setting somewhere where you can say, look, only take these items into consideration, only take these customers into consideration, maybe exclude these nonprofit customers or whatever. I mean, something you could probably start seeing. I'm going to choose here California and click on Run Report. And I'm going to go to California here, and here's where it says threshold met. This is where it tells you this would be the threshold for California. We'll go to Florida, and it says this is the threshold for Florida. Every state has its own threshold. So it's pretty cool as a starting point. What is missing, of course, is be able to configure some of these reporting requirements to really sort of match like what's going on with your business. With these tax agencies, every state's going to have this little box that shows you the current state. When you click on more details, it just gives you a quick preview. Now, this is not the tax return information. This is because this is current month or current quarter, whatever, however you have it set up. It tells you here briefly whether it's set up for accrual or cash. I like that because you can actually set up some states as accrual, some as cash if you want to through here. And also down here where it says view tax return, this is where you get the actual simulation of the tax return with all the boxes you need, the gross sales, taxable, non-taxable, and taxable amount. And then once you make the payment through the state website or you send the check or whatever, you click on record payment, and then you formally enter a sales tax transaction that will reduce that sales tax liability through the report and avoid doing what most people do, which is they'll write a check or create an expense against the sales tax payable liability account, and it won't link the tax liability with that actual manual payment. Also, there's a little option here for creating adjustments. When you click on add adjustment, you can say, you know, I'm getting a credit or a discount of whatever it is. Let's say sales. I don't have the account, so I'm going to create sales tax allowance. So I'm going to create an income account. Actually, okay, so good thing that this happened. You cannot create the account from the screen. So you have to go back, go to the chart of accounts, create your sales tax allowance income account, and then select it here. For now, just assume for a second, just fantasize that there was an account called sales tax allowance, other income, and it's there and it's selected in there. So then in here, you would say, you know what? I already paid this manually or whatever. And then you can click on add, and then it removes it from the module. Okay. It doesn't erase a liability from your tax return, but it removes it from your module. So in this case, again, if you're getting a credit because you prepaid it in the past, or there's a carryover, or there's a sales tax allowance, or whatever is it that you need to adjust, it gives you a couple of reasons here, and these reasons don't have any sort of consequence. What really matters is the amount and the account that you're hitting, but that's all built into sales tax. So I love these improvements that are happening on this side, on the management side. There's a couple of issues on the calculation of tax engine per se, but that's a bigger, more complex conversation that I do not want to get into. But I think it's good news that we're seeing improvements in the sales tax. Okay, let's move on to another feature that's being released now. I'm not sure if everybody has it already, but you will start seeing it, that if you create a recurring invoice, now note, not a recurring sales receipt, a recurring invoice. If you create a recurring invoice for your customer and you're using QuickBooks payments, when your customer receives the email of that invoice, as long as QuickBooks knows that there's a recurring set of invoices behind it, it will actually allow the customer to authorize the automatic payment. So let's say, for example, you have a customer that you sold them something on a payment plan for 10 months. You can create an invoice with a recurring invoice for 9 more months, 10 months in total. And when the customer gets it, they get scheduled to be paid when that invoice is due. So in this case, as you see on the screen, 3 days before the payment is due. So really, really powerful feature, believe it or not. I know not everybody uses QuickBooks Payments, but if you use QuickBooks Payments built-in merchant into QuickBooks Online, this could be a game changer from a administrative duties point of view, having to sit there and having to automatically charge somebody's credit card every month. The customer puts in the card number. The customer puts the debit or card number. So the customer is the one self-serving that automatic payment. And I love it. I really, really like that feature. Now let's move on to what will probably be your favorite feature, and I'm being sarcastic here, which is the new chart of accounts experience. Now, I took the time to take the new chart of accounts. I'm not talking about the experience or the UI. I'm talking about the actual chart of accounts that gets set up by default when you first create a QBO account. And I exported it into a Google Sheet and I made it available. So you can just click on that link in the slides and you can access that. So if you wanted to just study the validity or the accuracy or how much you like or dislike the new chart of accounts itself. Okay, so the new chart of accounts itself, you can see it in this spreadsheet that I made public. Just click on the link in the slides and you can go through it. There's 151 accounts in there that are in there, and you can choose whether or not you could complain or not complain. It really doesn't matter. But just know this is the default set of chart of accounts that gets created. So now you know exactly what's the chart of accounts that is going to be published when you first set up a QuickBooks Online account. I do have good news. There's a batch delete for all the accounts. So if you haven't seen that, I will definitely show you that. But that's the new chart of accounts. So that's the chart of accounts itself that can be changed, that can be modified. Let's move on to the new chart of accounts experience, or the UI, the facelift, whatever you want to call it. And what's interesting about the new chart of accounts experience, and I posted a really highly detailed video in YouTube, and this was going to be a lot shorter. It will be a Reader's Digest version of that. There's essentially two experiences built into one. So the new chart of accounts experience has a business view mode and an accountant view mode. And the experience changes how the workflow, how you create accounts, how you modify accounts change depending on whether or not you are an end user or you are an accountant or an accountant user. And we'll go over that because that little nuance is just really, really important. Okay. So we'll go over that. So I'm gonna escape out of the screen and I'm gonna go into my QBO account, but I'm gonna show you right now, just for some context, in case you're seeing chart of accounts for the first time ever. I'm gonna show you an old account that I have, or an existing account that does not have the new chart of accounts experience. Okay, so what you're seeing here is the old, existing, the legacy, the chart of accounts experience that most people have had or are used to. And this will be the same whether you're an accountant user or you're a business user. Chart of accounts experience was never different whether you were a business user or an account user. Now this is changing. So I'm going to click on new and show you, actually too late. my account got changed already. So I might not even be able to show you the old chart of accounts experience. So we're going to be sticking with the new chart of accounts experience. But I think most of you know the little box that shows up when you create a new account. So right now I am under accountant view. So I am in accountant view. The reason I know I'm in accountant view is because the button says switch to business view. And then down here it says you are viewing QuickBooks in accountant view. So it's very, very clear which view I'm in. I'm in accountant view. When I create a new account in accountant view, first thing I'm going to see is I'm going to have see this slide that comes over the right, and my account categories are all in the top. Okay, so there's no drop-down menu for account category. I had to pick one of these categories for me to be able to kind of move on. Now, when you look at this, you may say, hey, some things are missing. I'm missing other income, or I'm missing other expense, or I'm missing other current liability, or I'm missing other asset, or I'm missing accounts payable, the accounts receivable. So I'm missing long-term liability. So I'm missing some of the old categories that we're used to seeing in QuickBooks Online. So those are going to be inside of sort of the major title. So if I click on asset, and I clicked on asset, the little card there, when I click on the drop-down menu, I'm now going to see, and it's going to look like the categories are sort of an account by itself. So accounts receivable, which in this case, this is accounts receivable, the category, that's not an account. If I click on the drop-down and I see this account called accounts receivable 1200 and this account called accounts receivable AR. These two are the actual accounts receivable accounts. This one at the top is accounts receivable, the category. Okay. Then under other current asset, again, other current asset by itself is not a category. It's a type of account. It's not an account itself. These, the ones on the bottom, are the actual account. So you kind of have to select the major category here, and then you will have it here. Now, one of the things I think that are pretty interesting is, for example, I'm going to create a security deposit account. Okay. So I'm going to go here, account name, and type security deposit. One thing I actually do like, and I like a lot, I like this a lot, which is I'm able to get a preview here in the bottom of what that account will look like. And I can already see which category per se is going under and where is it going to land based on alphabetical order in this particular case. Where is it going to land? So I can see it compared to my other accounts. And it also shows you the current balance of those accounts, kind of like a mini balance sheet. So this is pretty cool. I mean, it would be nice if you could just turn off the preview mode so it doesn't take so much real estate, but that's not there. But this little preview, it's really, really cool, really, really interesting. And if you want to know where it lands order-wise, you would see right there, you see exactly where it lands, where is it going to be in perspective to the other accounts. If I'm going to change the name of this and I'm going to add an underscore. I'm doing this on purpose so you can see that this stuff, that this account is going to get sort of reorganized to the top. Same thing if I remove that but put this as account 1299 or something like that. QuickBooks will first go to account number for ordering, and then second it would go to account name. So when the account number is missing, it will use account name. So one of the things that's cool about this is it will respect account number ordering automatically, which is cool. So so this starts giving you a little bit more context in terms of how you are creating the accounts. Now, if I create an account that already exists, like security deposit, right now I get a red. So I get a red, and it highlights and lets me know that there's a duplicate. So that's actually really, really cool as well. So I think that this new chart of accounts experience did get a couple of things right, and I will continue to praise the few things that it did get right. I think in this preview mode, it's awesome, it's brilliant. I kind of wish the font was a little bit smaller, or I could turn it off, or I could hide it if I want to. There's a couple of things I would love to modify about this, but so far, so good. My criticism about this new chart of account experience, my major criticism, is that with this save account under, it's not very clear to know that something is essentially a sub account. So for example, if I pick one of these, right, this account that I'm creating is actually a sub account. It's not terribly clear in the workflow and the visualization that this is a sub account. Under the old mode, there's a little checkbox that says sub account off. That's missing. So you kind of have to know and remember that if I picked an account up here and not a major category, I am working with a sub account. It would be nice that if I clicked on this, something that says sub account off or something like that to make it really, really obvious to me what's happening, but that's just not there now. And that's, again, I think that's an opportunity there to just make it a little bit more clear for the user that you're creating a sub account. The other thing I don't like about this is there's something in QuickBooks Online that's always existed called detail type. Detail type was created by a disgruntled employee at Intuit that wanted to play a prank on the entire universe. And they said, we're going to make you do detail type in QuickBooks Online. I'm not sure if that's the actual source of it, but it sure feels like that because it's pretty useless. It's pretty pointless. And it just creates more time and frustration. But anyway, Intuit built detail type at some point, and they can't back out of it. For whatever reason, the infrastructure of the chart of accounts, like the guts of QuickBooks Online, require this whole detail type concept. So Intuit is been cracking their mind about how do they make this detail type less confusing? Because people like Hector, they're complaining and they're cracking jokes about the source of detail type. So what they did, the solution was, they're going to continue to have detail type, but they're going to call it now tax form section. Now, I couldn't be more in disagreement of Intuit's move to call this tax form section, because in reality, there's nothing in the tax forms that are organized the way detail types are. They're just not, like, nothing on it. And on top of that, Schedule C is different than an 1120S and 1065. So I believe that trying to call this tax form, so it feels more justified. So the users are, oh, okay, yeah, tax form. I need to do this because it's tax form and taxes and compliance. So what they did is basically they're gaslighting users into not getting frustrated with detail type by calling it tax form and making it a thing. What this is happening to my customers is every time they create an account, now they're freaking out and they're calling me saying, hey, I'm creating a new account, but I don't know what tax form section to use. So I don't want to mess this up. So I want to call you first. So basically creating a lot of friction for users that just don't understand the context. And the word tax feels pretty official to some users, and users just freak out when they see that. So I don't think this was a good solution. It's an elegant solution. I think it looks pretty, but I don't think it's a good solution, especially for end users. So we'll take a look at the business view and contrast the differences too. The other thing that's really interesting about the new chart of accounts experience is the merging process. So for example, let's say I wanted to merge cash and cash on hand, okay? So I'm gonna go into edit. So I'm gonna edit the account the way we normally edit the account. And what I'm going to do is I'm gonna change this from cash on hand to just cash. And I'm seeing the red here, and I'm agreeing with the conflict. So I'm gonna say, okay, I'm good with the conflict. By the way, I love those two reds. I couldn't be happier about those little two reds showing me the workflow of a conflict. When I click yes, what's happening is in this really small box in the middle of it is saying merge accounts. I actually liked merge as a pop-up just because merging it's kind of a more transformative process. And it's more potentially destructive when you merge accounts. So I used to like the pop-up better than this, but this is elegant nonetheless. And it just basically asks you here, would you like to merge accounts? The one thing that kind of bugs me about this is under the old merge, it said something about, hey, once you do this, you can't go back, and there's some potential issues with, changing of your financial statements, et cetera, et cetera. That's not being warned. So I click on yes, merge. As a user, that merge was so easy that I believe that as a user, I might think that unmerging or undoing that might be just as easy. And of course, if you've been using QuickBooks for enough time, you know that you cannot undo merges. So I wish that merging was a little bit more, it gave you more warning, more understanding of what you're agreeing to. It sure would be nice to see merging on the audit log. So when end users start freaking out, accountants can say, well, you merged the two accounts. That's the problem. But there isn't a audit log for merging, which would be pretty amazing to do that. So I think that's missing from the overall experience at this point. Now, the other thing that's worth mentioning is we can create new accounts. I'm going to go to new here, and I'm going to create a new account here under banks, and I'll create a new under bank accounts. And let's say I'm going to put here checking, and then I'll put here BOA 1122. And then here it says starting date and opening balance. You do get this little box, which is nice. And then you get to pick the date. So you pick today, beginning of the year, end of the year. That's all nice, great. And it has the dollar value there. Okay, so that's pretty neat. I like that. It has a little link for more info about opening balance, which basically will take you to a help thing. And hopefully for most end users, they can understand what's happening. So that's pretty good. That part I like plenty. Okay, about that. Now the other thing I wanted to show you is batch deleting or batch actions to get rid of accounts. So for example, if I find a couple of accounts that are redundant, let's say for example, let me bring the balances. I don't know why I didn't have the balances up here, but let's say I find a couple of redundant accounts and say all these I want to get rid of. I can basically select them. I can also shift click, select them in a group, go up here to where it says batch actions and click on make inactive. And in one fell swoop, pretty awesome, I can click on make inactive and they all go away. They all become inactive. All the same functionality stands that if they have a balance, QuickBooks will create a journal entry to move them out. Okay, so it will adjust them out, adjust the balances out. So that doesn't change if it's a balance sheet account with a balance. Just that batch inactive is really awesome. What I hate about this is if I'm enabling my inactive accounts and I say, whoops, I selected the wrong accounts or whatever, and I'm just going to search for deleted here, which I actually like this, that you can search deleted and it shows you all the inactive accounts, is that there isn't the reverse. So there isn't a button here that says make active. I think that's missing. So making active is wonderful. I love it. But make active, sort of the reverse action, that's missing, because if I wanted to make accounts active again, I have to click make active, make active, make active. I have to click one by one, and there's no other batch way to make accounts active again. Not very often we're making accounts inactive and making them active again. I get it, but it feels kind of lazy that you create a button to make inactive, but then don't create the other button to make active again. So I think that's missing, and if that were to be added, that would be awesome. That would be wonderful. Okay. All right. What else about the new chart of accounts experience? Okay. Yes. So let's say, for example, I'm doing some manual data entries. I'm going to create a check. So the way the new chart of account experience works, when you are selecting a category or an account, and I click on the drop-down menu, when you're in accountant mode, or accountant view, you still get sort of the traditional drop-down menu for the accounts. You still get the add new button, which, by the way, okay, there we go. This is what the old screen for creating a new account looks like. So when you're creating one on the fly, they're using the old interface instead of the new interface, the little drawer that comes through the side. Actually, nostalgia makes me excited to see the new account screen here on this side, because this is what the old create new account screen here. But I think if you're gonna go all in with a new chart of accounts experience, when I click on new here, the side drawer should show up and give me the same experience. If they're gonna do it, might as well go all in. I personally don't like the new chart of account experience. I like the old one because I'm used to it, although the new one's prettier and nicer. But sort of an interesting thing about working right now as we speak, just the old chart of account experience still shows up when you create a new account on the fly while you're in accountant mode. Okay, so now I'm going to switch over to, actually, let's take a look at what that looks like on the banking side too, just because I believe there's a slight little change on the banking side. Let me go here into ABC Wine. Might not. Let me see. Nope, there isn't. So we still get the old sort of the regular drop-down experience, and when I click add new, you still get the old screen. So that hasn't changed. But I'm going to switch over to business view, and this is where it gets interesting. So we're switching over to business view, and this is what it looks like for the average QuickBooks user with the new chart of account experience. I'm going to open up ABC Wine in this case. Wait until that loads up. Or I'll open up Google Ads. It doesn't really matter. So I open up Google Ads, and then I get this drop-down menu. As a matter of fact, I'm going to switch over for a second because, and this is interesting, I am working on the QuickBooks file you're seeing now. It's an old QuickBooks file. It's about a year old, in which half of the chart of accounts experience has been brought in, not the full chart of accounts, the full new chart of accounts experience. So I'm gonna get out of here for a second, and I'm gonna log into a new account I created a couple days ago. Give me 1 second. I'm here in incognito window, because one thing that Intuit does that I love is to create inconsistent interfaces across multiple QuickBooks Online files, which makes it particularly easy for a trainer to showcase a software where you might be logged into one company or the other company and they look totally different. And again, no rhyme or reason or way to know which version or interface I happen to be on. Okay, rant ended. So I'm in, let's see what version I'm in. I'm in business view right now. And then I'm going to go back into banking. So I'm resuming, which not banking. We'll talk about the left navigation bar in a second, but I'm going to go back into transactions here, and let me upload a QBO file here for a second. Sorry, I wasn't fully prepared for this. I didn't know the account that I was ready for was not going to work. So give me a second. Let me use this one that I just created a couple of days ago, and that should have bring in the bank feed, because I want to show you the new interface. Let me create a credit card. So this is a new account. When I created the account from the bank feed screen, it still gave me the old experience. But right now, when I'm about to categorize, I should have the new experience in. So let me show you. So in this case, click on the drop-down menu. This is, although it's a little bit subtle, and I want you to pay attention to this. This new experience is also a drop-down, but you get a button here that says see and add more categories. So I can come in here and put materials, and it'll still work sort of like a regular drop-down menu. It'll still create some suggested accounts based on, I don't know, based on the vendor, based on the amount, based on the pattern. I don't know why sales is even an option here. It's a different story, but it does suggest, it suggests some based on what you're typing, based on what they're seeing. So there is some suggestions. Oops. There are some suggestions here on the suggested side, but here in the bottom, you still get the traditional drop down, but then you get this button that says see and add more categories. And then what you get essentially is the new business view chart of accounts experience in the new account creation process. So there were two separate QuickBooks Online accounts. One had semi with the new experience, and this is a new account that I created a couple of days ago. This one's fully emerged with the new experience. And what you're seeing now is the business view of the new experience. So that's what the screen looks like when you're a business owner under the new experience, creating new accounts. Okay, so I just wanted to show you in banking, which is where most of the action happens, where you're going to start seeing the new chart of accounts experience change the overall look and feel of QuickBooks. So I'm going to go back to this, but I'm going to do it from the chart of accounts. So I'm going to go in the chart of accounts and do it from here. So sort of a little more familiar with this workflow. And let's say I'm going to create a new account. Again, I'm going to reiterate, I am under business view, new chart of accounts experience under business view on a new file that contains the full-blown experience, not half the experience, like the error we had or issue we saw just now. So I'm going to go to new. We get the side drawer that says category name. Again, totally different than the old experience. Let's say I'm going to create a new category. Let's say I want to create a consulting income account. So I'm going to put consulting income category. Now, one thing that's a major problem with the new chart of accounts experience under business view for newer accounts, fully blown, is that when I click here on select category and I click on income, which that's what it is, it's an income account, and I click on next, I don't have a mechanism to say this is not going to be a sub account. So by default, the new chart of accounts experience for small business owners or geared towards business owners pretty much just forces you to go into an existing account, into a sub account mode. So I'm not a huge fan of that. I think it could create more issues than help. So if I pick, like, let's say sales as the parent category, because notice I cannot pick not an existing account. There's no workflow for that. This is flawed, by the way. This is broken, in my opinion, to force people to create accounts under sub accounts only. For some people, it could be by design, because I know some people like making sure that the initial chart of accounts remains untouched. And when people create new accounts, put them on their new accounts only. Like I get the logic behind this, but the problem is there's no control towards. So the user would need to switch to accountant view to get that extra option, that different option, to have that drop down menu where you pick the income category as the parent per se. So right now I can't pick income as a parent. So any accounts that you create under the new chart of accounts experience is going to go as a sub account. They did make an exception for banks and credit cards, thank God, because that would have been even messier. But that's what they're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and click on save. And I essentially created a consulting income account under an existing sales category. So let me show you what that looks like. And you've seen this already. This shouldn't be new. There's my sales account and there's my consulting income account. So consulting income is a sub account of sales. In the business view, I cannot fix this. So I can't go into edit and I cannot fix this. There's no mechanism to fix or remove an account from being a sub account. I can't. There's no button to help me do that. I don't understand why, but it is what it is. It's what we have. That's what we're stuck with. So if I was a user and I wanted to make a sub account, not a sub account anymore, I would have to know to switch to accountant view first, and then have this different chart of accounts experience, find the sub account. Let's go find that sub account, consulting income. Let's click on edit, find the sub account, and then know that this is a sub account because it's under sales and I need to bring it up to income. And that's how you essentially undo a sub account issue. The second problem here is when you undo sub accounts, the tax form section gets removed. So I have to go in there and choose my what's traditionally called a detail type. So when you undo something from a sub, you gotta select the detail type again or the tax form section. One thing I found really, really interesting is the detail type can be changed or controlled or modified, whatever you want to call it, now called tax form section, only in accountant view. If I actually switch back, I'm gonna hit save here. If I actually switch back to, I'm gonna switch back to business view. And when I switch back into business view, when I create, actually, let's just edit one. I'm gonna edit one of these accounts. When I edit one of these accounts, let's say sales, I'm gonna click here and edit. Notice that I don't have a mechanism to pick my tax form or my detail type. Now, I'm having a tough time thinking whether I like this or not. So, because I hate detail types so much, and I find it so confusing to the customers, I like the idea of hiding it from the user. So I think they're onto something here, right? So under the business view, we're gonna hide detail type. Under accountant view, we're gonna show detail type. The problem is, because of these lack of features under the business view, there's no guarantee that the user is gonna work on their business view. As a matter of fact, I believe when users watch my videos, watch this video, when users talk to accountants, for the most part, I believe that even accountants are gonna be pushing customers to using the accountant view. So it's compatible with what the accountants see anyway. So if effectively users will end up not using the business view, it was kind of a moot exercise to hide it from the user anyway. And the logic here is, and again, I'm speculating here, the logic here is because you're creating accounts under existing categories are already going to have a detail type or a tax form mapping. So when you create an account under an existing category, it takes the default detail type or the default tax form section, whatever you want to call it, from the one that's becoming a sub account from. So I'm actually impressed of that mechanic. The programmers were able to figure out that nuance, that because you're making them sub accounts and sub accounts only, it's going to take that detail type. And as a matter of fact, as an accountant, I like the premise of forcing my clients not to be able to create parent accounts. And I like the premise of only being able to create sub accounts. I like the premise of not seeing that piece. The problem is a lot of these features, like removing stuff from a sub account or even merging, is not available in in the business view. So for example, if I wanted to merge, let's say discount given and sales. So I'm going to right click on discounts given and just type sales and then click on save. It's going to tell me, hey, they're different. I can't do anything. Okay. So the only way to do this is I have to switch to accountant view, make sure that the same tax form section or detail type, and then merge it, but it needs to be in accountant view. So I think, I honestly feel there should be just one view and then let the accountant customize the experience for the user. Because when you have by default just two options of views, the user is going to pick one of the two. And one looks like it's got too much power, one has too little power. It's not balanced enough. I wish there was just one view and then let the accountant or the user customize that experience. But I mean, I guess this is the first crack at that, or the first attempt at something like this. Okay, so again, I said that you were going to love the new chart of accounts experience because it has a lot of meat in it. Unfortunately, again, I don't shoot the messenger. I didn't design this. This is how it came out. Now, let's move on and let's talk about the customizable navigation bar under the newer accounts under business view. So if you have a QuickBooks Online file, and generally the newer ones would do this, that has this new dual layer left navigation bar where you click on something and then another sort of sub layer opens right under it. There's a really neat feature. This is actually great. I'm going to give total kudos to this, which is called bookmarks. And what you can do is you can choose what sort of quick things that you access all the time that you can see on this screen. So if I click on any of these and click on customize, I can actually, I'm going to uncheck all of them to show you. I can uncheck everything. That way you're seeing nothing. Click on save. And then when I come up here, bookmarks is basically blank. And if I always wanted to have a quick access to, let's say, banking, I can go to add bookmark and I can look for my bank transactions and click on save. And there it is right there, front and center bank transactions. Because right now bank transactions are in like the dumbest place ever. Like I have to go to bookkeeping and then I have to go to transactions. And that's how I get to banking, right? So really, really highly sort of logic, to get there. Or for example, if I wanted to get to, let's say, banking and I'm an end user, I'm going to click on the banking button that shows up right there. Third is the most, bank feeds is the most common thing that we do. So naturally people are going to click on banking and say, that's where my banking is. But no, that's not where banking is. That's where QuickBooks Checking is, which is a service to have have your bank account, a digital bank account. Capital, which is a service for them to lend you money. Business credit score, which is, I believe, is a free thing to kind of give you a Dun & Bradstreet record of your business. And PPP Center, which I didn't know was still a thing. So totally horrendously illogical to put on the third option here, essentially, something that feels like that's going to be bank feeds, but it's just a bunch of things you could buy. So into it, I get it. I think you should be selling stuff. I'm a stockholder. I want you to sell every customer in the world. I want the stock to go up to $1,000. I would love that. But you got to put these things all the way in the bottom and don't call them banking because users are used to banking for bank transactions. So you got to put bookkeeping on the top, front and center, because most of the magic happens inside bookkeeping. The other thing I dislike, so I love adding the bookmarks. I hate that I cannot remove stuff from here because if I was able to remove banking, then I wouldn't go into this rant at all. If I was able to remove commerce, I wouldn't go into this rant, okay? If I was able to remove payroll because I don't have employees, I wouldn't go into this rant. Again, I think that the bookmarks thing is awesome, like being able to add, special things. Let's say I wanted to customize the menu and also add budgets or chart of accounts or whatever I access quite a bit. I love seeing it right here in the top, but I hate seeing the things that I don't need, right? So great first step. I think they did a great job with this first step, but I think it does need to improve. Now in this slide, I have sort of the map of where everything is. And the reason for that is a lot of my clients got confused when this was switched. So I basically did this for them and put it in the back of their or their computer, stapled or taped to the wall or whatever. That way, they know where to go to navigate these things. So in this slide, this is everything that can be navigated through the left navigation bar, and the things are available in advanced, accountant only type of stuff. And also notice that if your client has essentials, it's not going to say sales and expenses. It's going to say get paid and pay. I don't know why. I don't know why they feel the need to for essential customers to change the terminology, but sales and expenses is called get paid and pay. I don't know why. That's how they do it. Shoot the messenger. Okay. All right. Let's move on to QuickBooks Online Accountant and things that we're seeing changing in the QuickBooks Online Accountant world relative to accountants. So the first thing is we were promised a couple of months ago that starting in midsummer, so at some point in the near future, July, August, we're going to have a revenue sharing program, which means that if you are a pro advisor, if you're part of the pro advisor program, you will be able to set up QuickBooks Online accounts for your customers, where your customers pay into it directly, where your customers pay into it forever. They are in your QBOA account. You are their accountant per se. So you'll be able to access it and all that stuff. But your customer is the one that has a relationship with Intuit. If you create the accounts under that scheme, you will get 30% commission of what the customer pays into it for the first 12 months. So for example, if you get a new client into QBOA Plus, you set them up under the revenue sharing program, and the customer is paying $85 a month with a 50% discount the first 3 months. The total revenue to Intuit is $892. If you calculate 30% of that, the potential commission, an actual bounty, the commission you will get for bringing a customer into Intuit is $267.75 for Plus if they stay for a year. One thing that's really important, you cannot combine your 30% discount and the revenue sharing program. So in essence is 30% for you or 30% discount to your client, one of the two. So you either get a discount on the payment or you get a bounty, you get a payout on what the customer pays. That's how it is. Now, this would be nice if it was residual forever, but it is not. So a lot of pro advisors pay the 30% discount and then charge the clients the full retail or whatever. But for those that don't want to deal with billing and sales tax and chasing after the client, it might just be easier to get the client into QBO, have the client pay into it directly, and you just get a bounty. So this is going to be interesting to see how much adoption we get from pro advisors in this summer 2022. Another really awesome feature they added in QuickBooks Online Accountant is if you have a team member that you want to write a note and let them know about that note, or let them know they have to do something about it, or say spoke to team member A or team member B, if you add the @ sign in the notes and type a team member's name, it will give you a drop-down menu of all the other team members, and it will let you choose who to tag on that note. That way, when a team member logs in, they get notified that there's notes pending with their tag in it. Awesome feature. Really small, big delighter, really elegant. Good job with that. The other thing that they added, or they said they added, because I haven't seen it in my account yet, so it's probably coming in the next couple of days or so, or hopefully this month, is folders in the shared documents feature. So if you're uploading documents for your customers as an accountant, or your customers is sharing documents with you via the QBOA interface, all the documents are in this place called shared documents under the client profile. You can now create folders and organize them in folders. Now, I saw the screenshot. This is a screenshot from Intuit. I have not seen it in mine yet. So I couldn't tell you whether it's available for everyone or when it will be available for everyone, that sort of thing. Okay. And the last thing is just a sort of a quick announcement. If you're an accountant, if you're a pro advisor, if you're already an advanced pro advisor, don't lose your certification. There's a deadline to keep your certification. I believe when I ran the poll at the beginning, that about 40 or 50 of you that were attending live were advanced pro advisors. So don't lose your advanced status. Make sure you continue to recertify in QuickBooks Online Advanced, or you will lose your status completely. So just quick reminder on that. Okay, let's move on to QuickBooks Online Advanced. QuickBooks Online Advanced is the one that's going to be $200 a month. Pretty soon it's $180 a month now. There are three key features or changes that are happening. One of it is Spreadsheet Sync. And Spreadsheet Sync is a public beta. Public beta means that everybody has access to it. Beta means that it doesn't work. It means that that some of it works, and it's up to you to give feedback into it to let them know what doesn't work. And that's pretty much what we're June 23rd, what we're living right now. Maybe in a couple of months, Spreadsheet Sync will be the next best thing since sliced bread. But right now, I feel that is very close to a steaming pile of garbage as a feature. It's horrible. It's a really horrible experience. I hate the fact that this is a public beta. I hate the fact that that this is quote unquote what replaced Fathom, which is a best-in-class app that worked really, really well. I just believe they had a horrible execution on this front. I've told many executives that I've asked for them to pull it. Don't make it a private beta. Let a few people test it first. But they decided not to because they pulled Fathom. So they need to have an advanced reporting platform to sort of alleviate the pain from getting rid of Fathom. Now you can still buy Fathom for $40 a month or whatever it is, if you want to. But I will attempt to do a demo of Spreadsheet Sync. And what I mean by attempt is there's about 50% chance that it's not going to work, because that's kind of how Spreadsheet Sync is. It's basically, if he wakes up in a good mood, you'll be able to do a demo on Spreadsheet Sync. If not, you won't. So let me load that in there. Might have to log back in. Okay. So the way Spreadsheet Sync works, and again, let me start with the idea of Spreadsheet Sync. It's awesome. I've been a QCube user for QuickBooks Desktop for a very long time. The idea of getting my data from QuickBooks into a spreadsheet so I can do my own reports, it's wonderful. The idea is wonderful. Problem is, Spreadsheet Sync, only certain parts of it works. So I'm going to show you what works, so at least you can walk out, excited about this feature. So the way Spreadsheet Sync works in a nutshell is it loads up Excel, and you have to download an Excel add-on, which is free, and it sits here on the top right. You launch the Excel add-on, and you see this little. Let me go back into. I'm gonna do it from scratch just so you can see the Spreadsheet Sync experience from scratch. So I have Excel open. Let me go to a little bit larger. So I have Excel open. I'm going to click Launch Add-in. One thing that's really important is you do not need to have QuickBooks Online open. You do not need QuickBooks Online in the background. You do not need to log in to QuickBooks Online through your browser. You log in straight from Spreadsheet Sync. So far, so good. That's great. So I'm going to click on Get Started, and I'm already logged in. And then you're going to have a couple of options. One is build a report, and the other one is manage records. So build a report gets data from QuickBooks and puts it in Excel, and that's it. It's for you to create your own reports. So I'm going to click on build report, and then I'm going to click on advanced template, which is one of the reasons why I think this is such a really badly executed app. I'm going to go to set template, and there's a built-in template called simple management report. So I'm going to click on that, and then I'm going to go with the flow. I'm going to trust that Spreadsheet Sync is going to create something useful for me with this whole concept of a simple management template. I'm going to click on. So one thing that's really important. I need to make a quick premise here. You can actually connect multiple QuickBooks Online Advanced accounts to Spreadsheet Sync, and you can essentially consolidate data with Spreadsheet Sync. That's that's the future. That's what feels promising about this tool. And I'm excited to see when it's working, how that's going to work for consolidation, because that's going to be useful. Very, very useful. A lot of QuickBooks Advanced customers have multiple companies, and you want to be able to consolidate. The problem is that Excel is not a financial reporting platform. So I can't create a good looking balance sheet in a pivot table. So right now, for example, if I go to balance sheet, and again, this is well executed from the perspective that this is what Excel does. So what Spreadsheet Sync did is it created a balance sheet from QuickBooks, and I did it in this format. And there's a couple of years here, so I can go over a couple of years. So it's a good start. But the problem is, it's really not useful. Like, in my opinion, it's not really, I don't know in what situation I would feel compelled to see my data like this. I can't picture myself in any point in time saying, yep, it's exactly how I'm going to present the P&L to my customer. So that's the issue. The issue is that the default presentation of Spreadsheet Sync, which is this simple management report or whatever sample management report, it's a nothing. And to compare it with Fathom, it's quite frankly kind of an insult. But anyway, so let's talk about what does work. So I'm going to click here where it says My QuickBooks Data, and I'm going to manually pull from the company file, so you can connect multiple files and you pick the specific file you're going to have. I'm going to click on Select Data Source, and you have a lot of data sources to choose from. You have some default reports to choose from. So for example, you could pull a customer balance summary, fairly easy. Click on Get Data. And I would pick, let's say, a date range. So I'm going to pick, let's say, this fiscal year. Okay. Now, it's a little bit of a logic issue when it comes to balance reports, which is, I really can't tell if this is a date range or particular, or the beginning of time till a date. So that's a little bit challenging for me. I honestly don't have time to double check or triple check this. But essentially what's being presented in front of me, it's a customer balance report. Now, usually if this happens, right, and this is this fiscal year to date, I want to verify inside QuickBooks that this is what I have. I have $499,000 of customer balances. So I'm going to go back into QuickBooks here. I'm going to go into reports. And it should work. I'm hoping that it works. I mean, if it doesn't, I'll probably switch careers right now, because it might not be worth it to go on like this. Let's see. Let's do this year. Was it this? Oh, this year to date. So where are you this year to date? This year to date. Click on Run Report, and then right here it says 499 for 343.15. And in Excel, see what it says. Woo, okay, good. All right, good. So I'm going to remain an accountant. I'm not going to quit after all. So that worked, okay? And that's what I mean. It does work. Some of the stuff works, okay? But, what am I going to do with this stuff when I already can get it from QuickBooks? That's the problem. The problem is I can already get this stuff in QuickBooks Online. So why would I, at what circumstance I need to open Excel and do all these things to pull the same data I get from QuickBooks Online? That's the part that's a little bit frustrating for me. I will show you, because I've been experimenting with this, and I've been trying to figure out, some really usability from Spreadsheet Sync. And here it goes. So I'm going to go to core transactions, and I'm going to go into invoices. Then I'm going to go to select data, and I'm going to select all invoices. So I'm going to choose the beginning of time, and there's some filters here. It's pretty neat. I can filter by a couple of fields. I mean, don't know why these particularly, but those are the ones that you have available. So I'm just going to just create a new sheet with all the invoices from the beginning of time. And I'm going to do something useful with this. So again, I've been criticizing this and I've been knocking it down. People from Intuit are going to watch this and they're going to be mad at me that I've been so negative, but they know how I feel about this. But at this point, I'm going to show you what actually works. So what actually works is I pull the list of invoices. Okay. What actually works is there's a link to every one of these invoices. Whoops. Hold on. I zoomed too much too fast. Let me go back and zoom here. Okay. So what works is there's a link next to each of these invoices. So if I click on that, it opens up QuickBooks, the underlying transaction. That's awesome. Really well executed. I think they knocked it out of the park with that functionality. As simple as it may sound, is really, really valuable to be able to see the underlying transaction in there. Okay. All the data is displayed in here. I don't get to choose which columns come in. If you noticed, when I got the data, it gets all the raw data. So everything available, I guess, on the API, it's going to be available here. So everything basically is a big, huge data dump, which is good. I like big, huge data dumps. I usually want to have as much data as available so I can work with it. It would be interesting. I could pick and choose the columns. That way I don't have really overwhelming information. Like, for example, location reference value, that doesn't mean anything to anyone. Okay. So like, I would love to not have to see data fields that I don't need. Let's say I'm 100% in USD and I'm not using multiple currencies. So I don't need that. So it'd be nice to be able to pick that. But anyway, so I have my big data dump of all my invoices, and then I can quickly create a pivot table. And if you are an Excel user and you've done pivot tables in the past, you know how wonderful the world of pivot tables are, and they have a special place in my heart because they're really, really great. Okay. So let's say I wanted to create a custom report where I take, let's say, the location, and then I'm going to get the, let's say, let's search it here. So I'm going to search for the item name. So I'm going to do item line name. So I'll bring the item name here. So I got, that's my product and service, right? My location, my product and service. Let's say I want to get class as well. And I want to bring class here. And then I'm going to look for amount, and I'm going to bring amount and bring it over to values. So now this starts becoming really, really interesting because I'm in pivot table world. Let me format my pivot table here. And I don't want to make this an Excel tutorial because I could go on about pivot tables forever, but we're just going to focus sort of at the task at hand. I'm going to move location over to filters, and in the drop down, I'm going to say I don't want anything that's missing a location. And then I'm going to bring it back onto rows. I'm going to bring in my, I think it's my class. Is that my class? That's the item name. So I want to remove everything that doesn't have an item name. So basically just cleaning up my fields here. And then the class, I don't want anything that doesn't have a class. Bring it back here. So I can do really cool things like, what are my sales by location, by item, by class? So you get really interesting information here. Maybe I want to bring location on the rows and then class on the columns. Whoops, that was item. So let's do classes on the columns. And now I get to see a different piece of information. I get to see my location. I get to see my items. I get to see my class. I can also look for account here. And I'm going to look for account. And then, not a good one. Hold on, let me take this out. Let's bring this one, an account. And I want to say, I only want to see my income account. So basically I can remove the expense side of the transaction and only see the income accounts. This is, classic pivot table filtering. And then it will only see the income side, not the expense side, that sort of thing. I mean, I still have to explore whether or verify whether this data is accurate or not, but I'm pretty comfortable that Intuit would do a good enough job at bringing accurate data sets. And I do have a couple of pet peeves with this. Like, for example, if I were to do any sort of income analysis with a data table, I want to see invoices and sales receipts on the same transaction. I don't know why you would have one for invoices and one for sales receipts. I would love to see those two combined. If I'm going to see bills, I want to see, in this case, I want to see bills and expenses on the same transaction. And it looks like some of these are missing. Like here's purchases. I assume purchases is expenses. I haven't gotten into it, but logically, I think purchases means expenses. So if I want to see expenses, I want to see purchases and bills and vendor credits, quite frankly. I want to see all those three together because I want to look from all my transactions. So that's spreadsheet sync. I'm gonna talk about one more thing, which is what really makes me excited about spreadsheet sync. The one thing that keeps me hopeful about spreadsheet sync, because so far getting data to run reports doesn't seem all that promising just because of the structure of it. But the one thing that seems really promising is being able to update existing information. So let me show you. Let's say, for example, I'm going to go into invoices and bills, and I'm going to pull from my company. So this is going to be an entirely different thing. This is not a reporting function. This is actually a potential data modification function. So I picked invoices and bills, and now I'm going to pick the company file. I'm going to wait for this to load. Just give it a minute. Here, and then I'm going to click here. It says bring existing records. So what you're seeing now, before I click on, let me zoom this in a little bit. Before I bring existing records, what I'm seeing now is a data entry template. So if I were to come in here while it's blank and put here, it says post yes and upload sheet yes, let's say, okay, to upload the spreadsheet. And then I come in here and actually type in all the information. And I'm going to wait until spreadsheet sync becomes a lot more stable and useful to do an entire tutorial on spreadsheet sync and explain every one of these things. But right now, it's just not worth doing it. But the premise is I could copy and paste data from Excel or type data, and I could push data into QuickBooks from spreadsheet sync. That's a great premise. But I could also modify data that's already in there. So for example, if I click right there where it says bring in transactions from the beginning of time, and I bring in, let's say, invoices, and I click OK. Essentially, what I could do is I could change underlying data on existing transactions. So right now, what's happening is spreadsheet sync is pulling all of my invoices and it's putting them in a spreadsheet here. Okay, and then once all the data comes in here, I can make any changes that I want. Like that could be qualified. There could be some issues in making changes. But for example, let's say I wanted to change here in AAA construction, I want to change this invoice number to 99987. In theory, I should be able to put yes here on post. I just changed, I'm just going to make it bold here so you can see it. So I just changed that number. I'm going to click on post data into QuickBooks and click on yes. And the premise is spreadsheet sync can grab just that line of data and modify the transaction. So there it is. It changed. I'm going to click on view in QuickBooks so we can see. And what used to be invoice number 1008 or whatever it was should have a new underlying number, which is 9987. Now that's cool. That's not only cool, that's a game changer. Okay? I want to be 100% clear that the promise of spreadsheet sync, it's amazing. Okay, I'm an Excel power user. This is awesome. Long story short, it kind of works. I mean, there's only certain fields that work with it, and they're still sort of building out the glitches on that stuff. But for example, if I wanted to change the item, so I'm going to go back into QuickBooks here and open up that item again. So I'm going to open up this item. But let's say, for example, this item that is using now, it's labor, and QuickBooks doesn't have a mechanism to batch update items from an invoice. So I would have to manually come in here and change that. Well, what's interesting is, I'm going to X out of this for a second, is I can come in here and I can change the underlying item, and I can change it to, let's say, materials. And then click on yes here on post yes, and click on yes. And essentially, and just imagine doing this in batch, essentially going in and doing this. Now, again, it's so difficult to explain why, but for some reason, it just works sometimes, but not others. And it's, a little pop-up pops up, and I can't see it, and it's just glitchy. So yes, I'm in love with the premise of what this can do, but yeah, there was a window right behind it. So I'm gonna try this again. Let's see if that works. So like you have to kind of like move things around. You gotta be careful with pop-up windows, and you have to read what this says. And now this says, hey, you can't do this for some reason. I don't know why, because you have a different, you must specify a different number. Okay, I already have that. I don't know why at this point I can't change it. So I don't understand how some of this, like the logic of the approach of these things work, but like I'll try a different one. I'm not going to change the invoice number in this case. I'm just going to change the item and I'll put it on the overhead. And this would be invoice number 10014. I'm just going to delete this completely. I won't delete it from QuickBooks, by the way. I'm just going to get rid of it because I don't want you to get confused by that. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to post a change to that invoice 10014. This one right here, I'll put it red here. So I'm going to post a change, and the change was the underlying item. So I'm going to hit yes. And again, this is what the software is designed to do. This is what Spreadsheet Sync is designed to do. This is what I'm expecting for it to do. So I'm going to click on Viewing QuickBooks. And we're going to see if the new item, it's modified the transaction, and it is. It's now under overhead. It kept my amounts correctly. If I click on more here, so give me 1 second. If I click on more here and I click on audit history, I will see that originally the transaction was created and it had whatever item, underlying item it was. And now today I changed an item with it. So you get to see very, very clearly what changed. It's part of the audit log. Assume that it was manually changed. It basically behaves the exact same way. So that's the interesting premise, that even glitches and all and pop-up windows and reason why transaction A or transaction B can be changed. I mean, again, all this stuff is being worked out. That's what I mean. It's a public beta, but the premise and the promise, it's wonderful. Spreadsheet Sync will be a game changer if they get to complete it, if they get to fix it, if they get to print or create useful reports from it. That is essentially going to be a really, really useful thing. Okay, so we're almost here towards the end. Okay, so this extended. My advanced webinars tend to run a little long when I get excited about a particular feature. So hopefully I'm being as thorough as you want me to be. Next thing I want to talk about is the expense claims public beta. So this started with the name of expense management, and now I got changed to expense claims. I like this. This is a QuickBooks Online Advanced only, by the way, just like Spreadsheet Sync is QuickBooks Online Advanced only. And what's cool about this, and what I really like about this, and of course, I'm going to point out what I don't like about this either, but what I really like about this is the concept of limiting the data that the employee that claims the expense or uploads the receipts have access to. So there's two ways to upload receipts into QuickBooks, and I want to give you some context. You can upload receipts through the transactions tab or through banking, okay, which is let's say the old way of doing it, or the traditional way of doing it. And there's an advertising here for employee expenses. I'm going to close out of this because this screen is meant for the bookkeeper, the accountant, the user that manages books. This is the default one, the legacy one. The way you do it is you click on upload from computer, you upload your receipt, and then you let this workflow take you through the process of categorizing. And that's it. That's all this area is. And I don't want to spend too much time on this, but that's what this traditional legacy receipt uploading feature was. It gets uploaded and you get to categorize it here on the spot. The way expense claims work is, imagine that it's not a bookkeeper, it's not an accountant, it's not the business owner, it's not a person that deals with banking or bank reconciliations uploading receipts into QuickBooks. And you want to limit how that person interacts with QuickBooks. You don't want them to see the entire chart of accounts. You don't want them to see the vendor list. You don't want them to see the customer list. You just want them to have sort of free type, and then let the internal bookkeeper, the accountant, the business owner, whoever manages banking and reconciliation, deal with actually selecting what category it goes to, etc. So how does that work? So I'm going to go to manage settings. I'm going to go to manage employees, and then I'm going to create a receipt-only user. Now, this receipt-only user could also be a regular QBO user, but generally, this is mostly useful for receipt-only users. So you create a receipt-only user, and the way it works is in QuickBooks Online Advanced, you're going to see a user that's going to be having access to time tracking and expense claims. So basically, all users that have time tracking and will have expense claim or vice versa automatically. And this doesn't count towards your 25 user limit. So a receipt only user or an expense management only user and a time tracking only user will not count against your limit. So keep that in mind. The 25 users are QBO regular users or custom users. Okay. So that's the first thing. Second thing is manage categories. Essentially, you get to pick what the employee has access to. Now, they don't choose from a chart of accounts. They choose from nicknames. So I got one nickname called fuel, one called job materials, one called truck materials. I'm going to create a new one called meals. Okay. And then under category, I'm going to put this under travel meals or whatever it happens to be. I'm going to click on save. And that's it. These 4 nicknames is the limit, the interface that the user will have. So imagine for a second, blink for a second, and imagine that I'm logged in as this receipt-only user. So the receipt-only user is going to see this screen, okay? And that is the only thing they're going to see. They're going to see this screen. They're going to upload the receipt, whatever it happens to be. Click on upload. And then once they upload the receipt, it's going to ask him really basic questions, and it's not going to give him access to anything really in your database. Like there's no customer list, no project list, no vendor list, no chart of accounts. So under amount, they'll put here whatever the amount is, $3.92. Now, it would be nice if QuickBooks were to detect the amount. The amount detection works under the previous feature, the receipts feature, the regular receipts feature. It doesn't work here yet. I assume they'll add it at some point. If I click here, I need to be reimbursed, means you're indicating you're the employee. You're indicating your employer that you pay that out of pocket. You didn't pay it with a business account. So because I'm paying out of pocket, you got to pay me back. Okay. So the reimbursement workflow will take you to the process where you can create a bill to pay back that employee. Okay. Under vendor, notice that there's no drop down menu. So then the employee puts here Walmart, and they can misspell it. It doesn't matter. Maybe they want to put Walmart and the asterisk because they want to be cute or whatever. It doesn't matter, right? So it doesn't matter what they put. There's no validation. There's no new vendor creation. It's just free type. Then under category, they pick from the 4 categories that we gave them, or they can pick none. Like I got no idea. I'm just sending you the receipt. So it's cool if you pick none, then the bookkeeper gets to choose what to do with it, which is pretty cool. So we'll leave it at that. And the customer project, let's say it was project 1 in Miami, whatever it is, okay? And then we can put water for the job, whatever it was, okay? Okay, so then I'm gonna click on submit for review, and then again, blink for a minute and assume that now is the accountant user who is logged in, not the employee user, but the accountant, the business owner, whoever has access to banking and expense claims. So what will essentially happen is now you're going to see a new expense claim here under for review. Let me click on refresh, and it should be sitting here under for review, this Walmart transaction. There it is. So Andrea, my employee, submitted the receipt, put the date, that put the description, put the amount, and then put category not found. They don't know what it is. So now I'm the person that actually controls how the receipt works into my workflow. So I get to look at the receipt and double check that that's not a company credit card, that it was their own personal account, or it was paid in cash or whatever. So it gives you this layer of verification. Then you click on review, and then it takes you to this screen where you tell QuickBooks, what am I going to do with this? So I can say I can upload this as a bill or a receipt, which is cool. You can upload it as a bill too. So under payee, then I get to pick Walmart here. So I get to pick my Walmart, which didn't have an asterisk, my actual Walmart payee from my vendor list. I get to pick which account it was paid from. Okay. If this was a reimbursed transaction, which says here, your employee requested reimbursement, then you must know, and this is one little pet peeve about this. You must know that you cannot enter as a receipt and you cannot put it in a bank or credit card because it wasn't paid from a company account. So then what you should do is create it as a bill. So then you can reimburse your employee. And if you do this, then I'm not going to enter Walmart here. I can't enter Walmart here because it's not a bill for Walmart. It's a bill for Andrea, because I owe Andrea the reimbursement. So if you do it this way, you lose the actual payee. I mean, that's just how it works. You lose the actual payee. So if you wanted to a workaround for that, I don't want to get too much into the workarounds, but for a workaround for that, you can create it as a receipt, and then you can create a petty cash account for Andrea, which I can't create accounts from the screen. I would have to have gone into my chart of accounts and create, but I can create Andrea's petty cash account or Andrea's charge account or whatever, and charge it to that. And then when I reimburse it to that account and zero it out. That way I can actually put here Walmart instead of putting the employee's name. So again, this is only a challenge when the employee pays out of pocket with their own money. They pay out of pocket and they're looking for a reimbursement instead of using this to record it as something that was paid from the company bank account. So that's the difference of how you would do one or the other. Then you pick your location, you pick your date, you pick the account that you're paying from, whatever it happens to be, okay? And then you finish categorizing it. So in this case, there's no category, if you remember correctly, because the employee put none. So I can put this into office supplies or whatever it happens to be. I can pick my customer. Notice that in the notes, it says Project One Miami. So then I get to pick and figure out what does Project One Miami mean? Because again, employees are not going to know how to choose a job code correctly and that sort of thing. So the notes here are going to be open for the actual user that knows to translate these and put in the right place. So I click on Save and Close at this point. Now it's been entered, and now it's in there. Okay. The next step is that if there's banking, if there's bank feeds, and I used a business account or a business credit card account, it will then match it to a bank feed transaction. That's sort of the second step in the workflow. But I just wanted to show you the expense claim thing because although it's a pretty weak feature overall, it's a pretty interesting feature overall. It's really, really, really neat what they're doing. One of my criticisms is I can't bundle, like I can't upload 6 receipts and make it one big bill, for example. So it's one at a time. That I kind of hate, especially for reimbursements. For non-reimbursements, one at a time is fine with me. But when an employee wants to get a bunch of stuff reimbursed, essentially they would have to have one paper with all the receipts put together and basically just have one category, or you have to do some sort of weird split to make that work. So obviously this is the first iteration of this. This feature is not broken at all. Everything I showed you works fine. So I get to criticize QuickBooks Intuit for a lot of things that are broken. In this case, this feature is not broken. I will add one thing. It doesn't work from a iPhone app. So there's no app-based mechanism for this. This will only work if you're logged in through the web browser. So you have to log in through the web browser to upload the receipts. I hate that because most people are going to be scanning receipts on the road and they want to do it with a phone app. Now you could log in to QBO.intuit.com from the phone's browser and use the little tiny screen to browse through QBO and do this. And it kind of works because the font's a little bigger and all that stuff, but I think this should work through the app, and that's in the roadmap. At least it feels like it's in the roadmap, and it's there. So we went super long here. I wanted to kind of stop it at an hour and a half. I won't cover Custom Report Builder. I will. I'll email everybody that attended live a link to a video I did on this, and I'm going to be creating more content on Custom Report Builder. I just want to cover a couple more things before we end it. So QuickBooks Connect is back. Best conference in the world for accounting professionals. QuickBooks it's in Las Vegas. QuickBooksConnect.com, December 7th to 9th. I'm going. Early bird ends June 30th. So if you want to pay the discounted price, go to QuickBooksConnect.com and register before June 30th. I'm going. I'm not going to miss that I love that conference. Two, QuickBooks Desktop is expected to drop mid-September, like normal. So I don't see any reason why they would change that. Intuit is going to offer pro advisors a discounted MailChimp account for their own practice. That actually is being announced today as we speak, in conflict with another webinar from Intuit. So check into that if you want to use MailChimp. Intuit dropped Fathom reporting add-on and is using Spreadsheet Sync as a replacement. We talked about that. Intuit said soon for farmers, there will be 943 support for QBO payroll. That's awesome. And lastly, I'm thinking about coming up with a new webinar series. Thank you very much. And I'll post a recording in YouTube soon, and I'll see you on the next one.